Hi, welcome to Arts again. Today we talk about a saint, a Sienese saint, Saint Bernardo Tolomei. In the normal life, his name was Giovanni, and Giovanni was a very privileged guy because he came from the Tolomei family, one of the most influential and rich in the city. So we have a square named Tolomei Square in Siena. We have a beautiful palace in front of the Church of St. Christopher. There was the church patronized by the family, and in the facade there are a statue of him, the Blessed Bernardo, and another blessed female member of the family. He was and he was also very smart, because at 20 years old he became a professor in the studium, so in the University of Siena, and became also a knight of the emperor. He was ordered knight of the emperor by the emperor Rudolf I of Habsburg. So you have to imagine a young guy, very rich, very prestigious, very smart. He had anything in the world, and he was also very devoted to the Virgin Mary, and he helped the poor. He was in a kind of congregation helping the sick inside the Santa Maria della Scala. So a very normal guy, but a privileged one. He changes everything during a sickness that he had. He became blind by one eye and then by two of them, so he became totally blind. He prayed for the recovery, a full recovery. The cross, the wooden cross that was in the chapel inside his palace. Now this cross is venerated in the monastery that he founded, because he prayed, he asked for the grace, asked for the look to see again, and the Jesus Christ, he obtained it, so he could see again. Jesus Christ assured him the sight, the gift of the sight, but he also promised that he would become another person. He would had a kind of conversation, and he did. So he took off all his clothes, like Saint Francis, while before, like Saint Paul, he recovered his sight. He took off all his clothes. He wasn't a professor and a knight anymore, and he became like a devoted, we have to say. So he had people. He passed his day in prayer and in gifts to the poor, and that's it. Followed by two friends of him, by two other important family, as important and as well known as the Tolomei one, so Patrizio Patrizzi and Francesco Piccolomini. Here they are. In this figure you can see the three of them. And so they started to practice this devoted life. But the Republic of Siena was not so happy about this, because the best ones are that he's gonna lose the best ones. So the best youth, we have to say. So he started a little inquiry about this vocation, it was true or not. So they decided to move and to go in the countryside. They used a piece of land that was owned by the Tolomei family since centuries, in a kind of desert. We call it the desert of Accona, the clay hills. So in solitude, they became hermits. They lived in the caves at the beginning. Then they built a little oratory to pray the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ. And then in 6 years, a lot of young guys came, joined them. So it became a proper congregation. They had to build a church and a monastery, and they could do this because the their bishop, the Bishop of Arezzo, Guido Tarlati, a very intriguing person, but we had to talk about it another time, decided to approve the rules of the congregation, the regula, the guidelines. So that's the date of today, in the March 26th of 1319. they became a sub-order of the Benedictines. They wore white, not black like the Benedictines, and they have been called Olivetans because the name of this place given by Giovanni was Monte Oliveto. So we have now the monastery of Monte Oliveto Maggiore, the mayor monastery, the house, the big house of the Olivetans. This is a kind of fortress now. It's been enlarged a lot of times. There are a lot of masterpieces inside, especially these frescoes in the cloister that just they are worthwhile a visit, absolutely. And he also changed his name, so from Accona to Monte Oliveto Maggiore, and from Giovanni Tolomei to Bernardo, in honor of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, so devoted with the Virgin Mary. And Giovanni, being Sienese, was so devoted himself to the Queen of Siena, absolutely. So he lived there. He became abbot of the Abbey, and they founded a lot of other monasteries in the central Italy. Where he died in Siena because he chose to move to Siena in the convent, in the monastery of Monte Oliveto Minore, the minor one, near Porta Tufi in Siena, because in Siena there was the Black Plague. So he decided to move to help the people in this time of grief and pain and sickness. He came there. He died in Siena with other 80 brothers, monks, his friends, and he was buried there. Someone says in a mass grave, like he wanted to, actually. Some others says in a private grave, and then he was moved to Monte Oliveto Maggiore to be venerated by the friends, the monks in the monastery. He became blessed, was made blessed, so beato, by the Pope Urbanus VIII, and he was made saint, so santo, that's nice, it's Santo San Bernardo Tolomei, by the Pope Ratzinger, that his name was Pope Benedict XVI. So there's a kind of link with the Benedictine order. Today the monastery of Monte Oliveto Minor, so the one that was near in Siena, has been destroyed during the wars between Siena and Florence, and then totally torn down to build a new graveyard. But something remains. And you can see, for example, this door, some part of the architecture is only this one, this door made by an important sculptor, Sienese one, and now it's in the Pinacotheque of Siena. So thank you for your attention. See you tomorrow, and tomorrow is for kids again, and we're gonna talk about the Montaperti battle. See you tomorrow.